Thank you very much, and welcome to the workshop on the European Atlas of the Seas. We are very happy to see you here and very much looking forward to discussing how the European Atlas can be useful in your work on communication. So I will share the presentation. If you give me just a minute. Okay, so maybe Maria, you can just confirm to me that everyone sees the presentation?
I can see it perfectly, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So we are first going to explain what the European Atlas of the Sea is and how it works, and then we can discuss together how it can be useful for you. So some practical guidelines before we start. Please note that the workshop is being recorded and that we will be taking an online group picture just after the working group discussions. So if you do not have your camera on and you wish to be on the picture, then please do turn it on. If you have your camera on but you don't want to be in the picture, then please turn it off. Please also use the chat at any time to ask questions that you may have or to indicate anything that might not be clear or include any comments that you would like to make. Please keep your microphone muted during the presentation, and then we can open the microphones to everyone during the workshops and the discussions afterward. If your internet connection is limited, then we suggest that you switch off your video for a better connection, and also to close background application and browser sessions also for better viewing. So when we talk about the ocean and the seas, a lot of questions can come up, like where is coastal erosion taking place and who does it affect? Or what type of litter can be found in the ocean and what can we do about it? Or globally, how do we know what we know about the ocean? What kind of instruments are being used to collect data and information, and where are these deployed? So a lot of different questions from different audiences that come up and that you would like maybe to address in your communications. Maps are very useful to address these questions because they are very visual and they can allow you to have an overview over the whole of Europe, for example, or to go more locally and look at some of these questions at a regional and local level. We can also combine maps with graphs, and so a lot of information can be included in maps. And this is the objective of the European Atlas of the Seas, is to make data and information available to everyone in a visual way so that it can be used to better understand issues that concern the oceans and the sea. So what is the European Atlas of the Seas? It's an online digital interactive tool, which includes stunning marine maps and interactive ocean information over a very wide range of marine topics. And I'll come back to that in a minute. It includes 285 interactive map layers. So that's a lot of content, a lot of information. And you also have the possibility with this tool to create your own map by combining some of these layers to show specific points that you want to highlight. All information and maps are easily accessible for free, and there's no need to create an account. So if you go to the web address that is at the bottom of this slide, so www.europeanatlasoftheseas.eu, you will directly have access to the information and to the maps. Since September of this year, the maps are available in the 24 official languages of the European Union. So you can change from one language to the other and see the information in these different languages. Maps can also be quickly printed, shared, and embedded in presentation, which means that you can include the maps in documents that you are writing or presentations that you are making, and I will explain how you can do that. So I was saying many different topics. This goes from nature to sea life, tourism, energy, aquaculture, fishing, security, transport, employment. So you have a lot of different topics that you can look at and that you have information on. So who's behind the Atlas? The European Atlas of the Seas is an initiative of the Directorate General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, DG Mare, of the European Commission. And since 2017, it is managed by the EMODNET Secretariat, so the Secretariat of the European Marine Observation and Data Network. So what does that mean, that it is being managed? It's work constantly under progress. So we are developing the Atlas with new maps, updating existing map with new data, but also providing new tools to better use the data and facilitate access to the data. Where does the data come from? So this is very important when we use data and when we communicate data, is to be able to trace back the data to its source. And the data in the European Atlas of the Seas comes from the European Commission, DG Mare, other services of the European Commission, EMODNET, the European Environmental Agency, Eurostat, Copernicus Marine, and joint research centers, but also many others. And I will show you how you can see in the Atlas for each map where the data is coming from. So the main objective is really to bring data from the sea and the oceans to your computer screen through this Atlas in a very visual way. How does it work? When you open the Atlas and you directly want to search for information, you can click on the magnifying glass that is on the menu on the left side of the screen, and this will open a pop-up window. In this pop-up window, you have three different options. You can look at predefined maps. These are a combination of maps on the topics that I've mentioned before, like the fisheries or nature or tourism. You can have a look at some map stories. So these are selected maps for which you will find additional information, or you can search yourself for the different map layers, and there you can select one or several maps that you want to combine. So in this case, we are interested in aquaculture, for example, and we have decided to select three different map layers on finfish farms and shellfish farms. Once we have selected the layers, and we can have information by clicking on the information icon on what these map layers include, you can close the pop-up window by clicking on the cross at the top right-hand corner, and you will then see the map with the combined layers that you have selected. We can see here that we have selected three layers. And when you look at the legend and you click on the legend, then you can see the legend for these three layers. You can zoom in and you can zoom out. So if you're interested in a specific country, in a specific region, you can zoom in by using the tools on the right side of the screen. And you can also click on any of these forms to have more information. You will then have a pop-up window that opens with additional information on the form that you want to look at. If you go into the description of the layers, you see also that you have an information icon there. If you click on that, then you can have a description of the map with information on what you are seeing in the map and also the information on the data provider. So in this case, the data provider is EMODNET. And if you click on the icon of EMODNET, then you directly go to the website of EMODNET where you can find out more information. If this is not the maps that you wanted to see, then you can clear all layers, or you can click on the icon just under the information icon and delete these layers and start from scratch to select other layers. If it is the map that you are looking for and you would like to include that in a presentation or in an article, then you can click on the menu, which is the icon with the three lines on the left-hand corner of the screen. And there you have the menu pop-up window that opens, and you can click on advanced features. This will give you access to different additional tools like the printing tool or the measuring tool. The measuring tool can allow you to determine areas, distance, or geographical coordinates. The printing tool will allow you to extract the map from the atlas to be able to use it in your article or presentation. Once you have activated this tool, you will have an icon that appears on the right side of the map. You can also decide that you want to include, embed your map in an online article. If this is the case, then you also have an export tool on the left side of the screen, which allows you to get a code that you can include in your online article to embed the map in your article. And this will allow readers to directly work with the map while they are in your article. If you decide to print the article by clicking on the icon of the printing tool, then you will have different options to choose from. You can choose the paper size. It can be A4, it can be A3, for example. You can decide whether you want to export it as a PDF or as a JPEG image. You can decide to include the legend. You can decide if you've selected different layers, if you want to show all of the layers or only part of the layers. You can also change the title. Here you have European Atlas of the Seas, but you can change that article to meet your specific points that you want to highlight. You can also zoom in and zoom out to show a particular area on the map. And you also have a drawing tool with the pencil, which allows you to draw on the map if you want to bring the attention to a specific point on the map. And then you can scroll down in the screen and you can click on print export, and you will get the PDF and the JPEG that you can directly include in your presentation or in your article. So basically, this is how it works. Of course, you have to play around and to try it out for yourself to understand what the possibilities are and how you can use it and what type of information you can find in the atlas. And this is what we are suggesting you do during the working group that we are going to work on. First, maybe a point on the interest of combining map layers. This can really illustrate some specific points that you want to research or that you want to communicate on. So if you take the example of climate change, in this case, we have combined a map on coastal line change based on satellite data, which shows coastlines where you have erosion or where the coastlines are stable or where there is accretion, and population density. So this allows us to see, for example, that in some areas, population density is very high, but the coastline is stable. So this is not a concern. But you also have areas where population density is high and there is erosion. So in this case, it's important to look at what is being done about this and what does that mean for the people who live along these coasts. For marine litter, you can also combine different map layers. And so, for example, you might want to combine seafloor litter, looking at plastic bag density, and marine Natura 2000 sites. And this shows the areas where you find seafloor litters and the areas where marine Natura 2000 sites are located. And you can see there that it's very important to consider both marine litter and nature conservation when you are working on seas and ocean, because the two are very linked, and that if you want to work on nature conservation, you also have to address the question of marine litter. If you are discussing sustainable fisheries, you may, for example, want to combine catch by country and fishing intensity to have some specific data that you can look at. And as I was saying before, if you click on any point, a specific point in this map, then you can get more information. So for example, if you click on one of the countries to look at the catches by country, you can see how the catch have evolved over time. So you get additional information if you do that. So now we invite you to join the different working group. We'll be splitting in 3 groups, which will be looking at these specific topics. We have one topic on climate change, one topic on marine litter, and a topic on sustainable fishing. We suggest that in each group, you select one person who is going to summarize the conclusions and the key points that you will have discussed for the plenary session after the workshop. And we suggest that you summarize the key points in about 3 minutes for each workshop so that everyone can also hear about what's been discussed in the other workshop. We also invite you to work directly with the atlas. You have here the address of the atlas, and we suggest that you click on it and that maybe one person in the group shares their screen so that you can work together in the atlas. So what we suggest that you do is to ask yourself some questions. What subjects would you like to illustrate? What subjects would you like to discuss in your communication? And what questions would you like to have answers to? From this, you can have a look at what map layers or combination of maps could you use to illustrate, visualize, explain the selected subject. You could also have a broader view and see how the atlas could be useful for storytelling. So we now propose to move on to the working groups. Maria, if you can split us in groups.
Okay, thank you very much, very interesting. So I'm going to split you in different groups. I hope to be able to do that. Let's go. Number 1 would be for Andree. Wasn't given.
And Maria, Carmen, sorry, can you tell us when we have to go back all together?
Okay, how long? 20 minutes?
Yes, I think.
Yes. Yes, okay. 20 minutes, okay. And the third one is Nathalie. There, yeah. Okay, I'll be out of the groups. I'll be attending when I can, so.
Okay, we can see now the invitation to join the different groups. So have a good working session, everyone.
See you later. Hello.
Hello.
I'm here.
You'll join the session as well?
Yeah.
Very well. I think we can wait a few minutes, like 2 minutes, in case people are still joining, and then we can start.
Mm-hmm. There are only 3 people in the groups.
Okay, is our group complete? Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then we can start. I will share my screen. So you can see the atlas. And yeah, I think the goal is a little bit that this is like audience driven. So in case there's a specific topic you would like to discuss.
So which group are we in?
Climate change, no?
This is climate change, yeah.
Okay. I was already in the atlas myself, like doing some stuff already for myself.
Okay, that's good. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. It's the best way is to explore a little bit yourself to get to know how to use it. But if there's any specific topics, because the kind of number of map layers that are available, it's a bit overwhelming. at first, probably, and so I can help you guide in case there's a specific story you want to address.
I don't know.
Like I'll kick it off.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Go on.
Yes. So when we tell stories about climate change, I think it's very important to make a few distinctions. And the first one is basically how do we know our climate is changing? And so one of the most clear indicators is temperature. And this is also true for the temperature of the ocean. So in the atlas, we have several layers that show temperature. So we have the sea surface temperature. So this is how scientists measure the ocean surface temperature. So they use two things. They use satellite observations, which allow you to create these kind of maps that show the temperature distribution throughout the ocean. And then they combine this, just reloading there. And then they combine this also with, they combine these satellite observations with observations from directly from buoys that are drifting in the water. So this is the second layer I'm adding. So I'll make sure this one's a little bit. And that basically shows you. If I can remove this one.
So it's more points here.
Yeah, so those are more points, so normally this should show tracks. Of course, this is a live demo, so some reason this one is not this layer is not showing up. But those will show. I can try and show another one. Which should show the
position of the buoys.
The position of all these different buoys that scientists are using to actually measure the temperature directly. And the combination of these two measurements, they allow for us to observe what's happening to the temperature of the ocean.
But these buoys are working actually at the moment, or
this is the last position. So these buoys, they constantly measure temperature, and they send this out to satellites, temperature measurements, and also their location. And so this is really the live location of this network of buoys. You can see there's quite a lot. Of course, the dots are much bigger than the size of the actual buoy. So
these are Argo float or something like that.
These are drifting buoys. We also have Argo floats.
There are also.
So there's also Argo floats. So those are in different locations. And so Argo floats, so these buoys, it's really, they measure the surface, and Argo floats, they dive. So they actually measure the temperature deeper in the ocean. And then to go back to the story of climate change, with these kind of observations, we can kind of see how the ocean temperatures are changing. And for that, we also have another map, which shows the sea surface temperature anomalies. So the way this is being calculated, it's so based on these temperature observations, which we basically have for every day, we can calculate a long-term average. And then for a specific year, for this map year 2015, we can see how much different is the temperature to the long-term average. And you can see for a large part of the globe, it's actually warming. So the ocean is becoming warmer. But for some regions, you see it's getting colder. And so this is an important aspect, I think, to explain to students that climate change, it's very complex. It's not as simple as the planet is just warming. It's really the average temperature is increasing, but in some places the temperature can go down. And then, for example, the reason we have this cold spot here and across Greenland here, there's two reasons. So the warming temperatures of the Arctic, they are causing more land ice to melt. So a lot of molten ice water is actually flowing into the ocean. And this is causing actually this area, these seas around Greenland and Canada, it's causing them to become more colder. So this is why in this region you have colder waters. And then this great cold spot we have here in the North Atlantic, that's actually the result of all this fresh water that runs into the ocean. It actually slows down the ocean circulation. And normally this water, which gets cooled by the cold Arctic air, it will sink and more warmer water will be pulled to replace it. However, because of this fresh water from the ice caps, it's actually lowering the density of the surface ocean. And therefore, this kind of circulation is slowing and the water can stay longer at the surface. And so it's, I think one important message to communicate with climate change is that it's not as simple as, oh, everything's getting warmer. There is an overall warming of the average temperature of the full globe. And you can see like a lot of parts of the ocean, they are indeed warming up. But in specific places, there is complex interactions of the ocean system, which can cause it to be colder than what it was before. So I think this is maybe an important story to tell, that it's not as straightforward, especially with a lot of sometimes news sources which are not very critical of the information they present. So this is one aspect of climate change. So we can show like the physical aspect, and then we can also show if you have questions, please.
So I have one question. Do you know which is the period they use to do the average to calculate the noise?
I think it's in the.
Maybe here.
It's this data set, I think it's since the start of satellite observations, but it's not here. But if you follow this link, you will go to the page of the JRC, and you have to look for MODI Sterra temperature anomalies. And so it's up till 2015 when this map was calculated. They used the long-term average from the start of satellite observation, which I think is 1990 to 2015. We're in the Atlas, we're also working on newer satellite observation maps from Copernicus, and they will be released very soon. So soon we will have also a more recent temperature trend map that we will be adding.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question about the audience, because I think it's a really nice tool, like put all the data together, but it seems for me that it's more targeting like wide audience, not scientists, like directly, because I mean, for me, like now I was actually looking at all the map you offer to check all the data to get the data, you know what I mean? But so I was wondering, like this kind of narrative that you just gave us, it's not really appearing like side to the map. So I was looking at these map stories, but I don't find the narrative. Yes,
so the narrative, we also have, as we're kind of focusing this to our teachers, we also have a teacher's corner, so which you can access if you go to the menu. And there we have several workshops. And in the future, we plan to expand this with more information for teachers.
Okay.
And there you have a workshop around climate change, and this will explain that narrative. For example, I think it's this one. So here we explain. So basically, this is the explanation. Use a map of sea surface temperatures, and then basically ask students, what do you observe in the map? Which places are getting warmer? Which places are getting colder? And then, yeah, where does the temperature increase the most? That's in the Arctic. And then, why do you think the area is warming? And then the the explanation of, for example, the ice albedo feedback. And then where is the temperature decreasing? So this is this cold Atlantic spot. And then that's actually the narrative from the day after tomorrow, where hyperbolize the story. And then this is the temperature of, the story of the thermohaline circulation in the ocean and this circulation slowing down. So that it actually have this kind of more, so in the atlas, we try to keep it simple, really showing the data as collected by scientists. And then in this teacher's corner, we provide more the narrative part, so that teachers can also have access to this information, which they then can use to make classes around it. So that's kind of how we've structured it.
Okay. And then you have this map stories where you have like a map with a small story about
So those are also stories, and we plan to expand those to all the maps. So probably for this sea surface temperature anomaly map, we will also have a story in the future, but we are waiting for translation of this content. So so for example, here you also have one on satellite chlorophyll observations. But these will be expanded in the future. And so the map stories, it's more like a short blog post around a specific topic related to the map. But then in this teacher's corner, you also have like presentations, workshop, quizzes with specific maps. So this is more like information you can use as a teacher. So that's like that. This is one of the stories around climate change. In this workshop, we also have another story which is more around what are the effects of climate change. And so there's multiple effects. The first is sea level rise. So
yeah, exactly. I was actually interested in looking at this.
Yeah. So we have a map of relative sea level trends. And then you can see that in some places the sea level is going up, but in other places it's going down. And again, here you need to explain why is it not rising, because climate change, the water is getting warmer, there's more ice melting, the warmer water is expanding. Why is it not rising everywhere? And then it's important to note that what we actually see at our coasts, whether the sea level is coming closer or the sea is going down or going up, it also depends on movement of land. And so you see in the northern regions, what's happening there is actually the land is moving up. And the reason the land is moving up is that in the last ice age, there was a huge ice cap that was lying on this, on all of Scandinavia. And this ice cap has mostly molten, so it's almost completely gone. But the Earth itself is still readjusting from this weight being lifted. And that's why Scandinavia is moving up. And actually, they will not have problems with rising sea levels in the near future, because there, the land is actually moving up. And again, I think this is explained in the workshop. So we have this graphic. So this is the explanation. So it's called post-glacial rebound. But in other areas, the sea level is rising, and that is more the effect directly from a warming ocean. So warmer water is less dense, so it expands. So a warmer ocean takes up more volume, and warming causes more of the water that's actually on land, so in ice caps, to melt and also add to the ocean. So there's these two effects.
Could we add a layer of, I think I saw it, I don't remember the name, like the
coastline erosion? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I saw it somewhere, but I don't find it anymore.
Coastline. So this is coastlines erosion, and you have to zoom in a little bit. And how this is calculated, that should be explained here. So basically, they look at satellite images, And they have an algorithm that looks for where is the coast in the satellite image. And over the satellite images, over different years, they kind of see where is the coast moving. And you can see in places where the sea level is actually falling, the coastline is staying relatively stable. And in places where sea level is rising, it's either stable or it's, this is the legends.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
There's increased erosion.
Okay.
And this erosion, it's affected by sea level rise, or it will become more and more affected by sea level rise. But it's also related locally, of course, to currents, to storms, and as some there is some research saying that increased climate change and the warmer ocean, they will cause more storms, more frequent extreme weather events. And so in those cases, we can also expect erosion to increase.
Yeah, and I guess also geologically, because for example, the English coast is calc, while the Dutch in Belgium coast is pure sand.
Yes, yeah, indeed, yeah, geological changes. And there's even, if you want to tell that story, we also have layers on, so the lithology actually of the layers. So this is, of course, of the seafloor. So that actually gives you the underlying rock. So it's a big map, so it will take a while to load. So it gives you the kind of rock type that's underlying the sediments. So if you want to make it more like a geological story, that's also possible.
So this layer setting is like you can make it more transparent or more...
Yes. So for example, this layer setting, it's this one, so the settings, you can make it more transparent and then you can see it. Or if you say, I want to just hide it for a second.
Okay.
Also put one layer below the other one, like this.
That's moving? Okay.
Yes, so, and then, I need to show it. And then it will kind of display underneath the other one. So if I make this one fully not transparent, and then I can move this one over and under, or you can use these arrows. So that's kind of how you can. If you want to clear all the layers, you also have a button for that. If you want to start from scratch. And then perhaps there's a third, like around climate change, a third story is of course the story of how are organisms affected. So how are the ecosystems in the ocean affected? And for this, we've partnered with a very recently finished research project, Horizon 2020 Atlas, and they actually have predicted how climate change has impact on different species. So we have a few fish species.
Can you show the code, please?
Yes. So on Atlantic cod, for example, this map shows the predicted changes. So I'll show you the legend. So actually, loss is where there used to be a habitat for cod, but it's it will no longer be there in the future. I think these predictions were for 2100 in the future, for the period 2081 to 2100. So their habitat is going to be lost. So the Atlantic cod will no longer be able to survive there. And they made these calculations taking into account all the changes that climate change is causing in the ocean water. And you will see in some places, mainly in the north, new habitats will be available, and then in some places the habitat will remain. So, which is also important because, of course, if a habitat changes completely, it doesn't mean, it just means that the physical parameter, the physical conditions in these northerly regions will are now not yet possible for the Atlantic cod to live, but in the future will be. But that doesn't mean that the species will have the opportunity to actually go there. For fish, it's, I mean, that's maybe not, I mean, fish are pretty mobile, but we also have these kind of layers for coral species. For example, white corals. So these are deep sea corals, and they're actually very important for the fisheries because they are places where the fish go to lay eggs and where the eggs have shelter from predators. My internet connection's a bit slow. And so that's also another story about that we can tell around climate change. And there you can see, for example, these corals, they like to live near the edges of the continents. So you can see on a lot of these edges, they will still be able to live, but the depth range where they will be able to live, so mainly the shallower areas, they will no longer, the conditions will no longer be right for this coral species. So they actually will be pushed to deeper water because of the ocean, the surface ocean waters warming. So these are actually predictions of how ecosystems in the ocean will have to adapt to climate change, which is.
Do you have a layer of like the current habitat? Because, for example, it's like gain around Norway, but is it there at all? Or?
So the current habitat is refugia and loss. So in the loss, this is where there's currently a habitat, but by 2081, there will no longer be a habitat for this species. Gain is places where currently the species cannot live, but will be able to live in the future, or the conditions will be right to live there in the future. And refugia is places that are places that where today they will live, but also in the future, likely, well, the ocean models predict that the conditions will still allow them to live there in the future.
Sorry, we have 2 minutes left. I have.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really interesting. I'm going to say to the other groups.
Yes. No, if any last questions or
I think it's really, really useful tool. Hello, only 2 minutes.
Okay, so to come back in bigger group, you will do that yourself?
I suppose so.
Okay, perfect. So we do nothing, yeah? You will.
Okay.
Okay, we will wait.
Okay, I have to go back to another group. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Our chat and
hello, sorry.
Hello. Hi.
2 minutes. Okay.
We're still loading. Maria, our layer is still loading.
It's so funny. I love this workshop. So see you in 2 minutes.
See you. See you.
Yeah, I think
currently lives and will live in the future, or these are places that perhaps in the future will be the only place where a species can live.
But this is for deep sea, or only?
This is for the deep sea, yes.
Yeah.
There's a project related to the deep sea. So for deep sea ecosystems, this is kind of a map that was derived from these predictions for the different ecosystem habitats, and then which was targeted really at policymakers who want to protect parts of the ocean, for example, with marine protected areas, which we also have a layer on, for example, the Natura. So these are areas that are currently protected. And then in the areas, and then basically they show indeed some of these areas that are currently being protected, they overlap. But this analysis has said, oh, these are the priority areas to protect. But there's a lot of places, mainly in the more Arctic regions, where protections are not in place, and which will most likely be very important towards the future. As you can see in these, in the habitats change maps, that a lot of habitats are moving up north, because there the water is still cold enough. for some.
I'm so sorry, but we have to go back
No, yeah,
to
okay.
the main
No,
room.
it's fine.
So this is really interesting. So I'll stop
Thanks.
on the.
No, you're welcome. So we just.
We have to wait for the rest. I think it's a very, very useful tool. Thank you. Your mic, maybe okay.
Okay. No, yes, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Hello, you're coming back
Yes.
to the main room. There's another group, but that they're still there. 7 seconds. Welcome back. So Nathalie, I leave the floor for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, just to finish a sentence, because we were called back into the plenary. Yes, I was saying in our session that, of course, this is quite short to discuss all possibilities and how the atlas works. And so I will, in the last slide, also give you our email address and tell you how you can contact us. Because now, of course, it will be very interesting for you to go and try out the atlas by yourselves also, but we'll always be very happy to discuss it with you and answer any questions that you have. Maybe we can have now the conclusions. I will come back to the presentation. So we can maybe start with climate change. If someone from that session could summarize in 3 minutes or so what key points you have discussed, or questions that you have, or what you wanted to highlight about what you've discussed. So climate change.
I think she could do it.
Yeah, okay. It's good I followed. Yeah, so Tim gave us quite a nice introduction, and actually it was really thorough. So we look at 3 different aspects on climate change. First, like focusing on like the famous sea surface temperatures changes. So like looking at the different temperatures measured by satellites or by buoy. And then we also look at the anomalies to see like more warming or colding of the water, and yeah. So then we like he explained to us some of the reason, and we went also to look into some tools like teacher presentation, where you are actually a really presentation and workshop that can explain some trends you will see in the map that you might not know or understand. And then we look at the second aspect on the sea level rise. So there is data about different sea level rise, and then also we combine it with like the stages of the coast, like if it's like stable or eroding. And then we also look at the geological feature of the coast to see like how this link with the erosion and the sea level rise or not. And finally, we also look at some predicted habitat change based on projection made in Horizon 2020 project, and we saw that they were like projections based on the IPCC scenarios of business as usual, like of different loss of habitats for different species, but also some change like gains in habitat and places where it didn't changed so much. So we were quite thorough, I think, in the climate change.
A lot covered.
Great.
Thank you very much. Marine, later?
Yes, so it went really, really fast. And at the beginning, we were just one. And then Jan joined us. We didn't really have the time to check a lot of things. We went to the Atlas overview to see the different kind of data we have, because Jan was interested with the macroalgae data. So we explored a little bit that. And then we explored the composition of litter according to material categories. And we saw that in one look in the European seas, it's really the artificial polymer material that is the most the most common beach litter found. And we explore where it was a bit different, so where there was more paper litter, glass litter, etc. And then we look at the Natura 2000 sites map with the comparison with the seafloor density map. And then we explore the Merle habitat maps and the fishing, the vessel density. I think that was it. Did I forget something, Cecile or Ian? But we didn't have a lot of time. It was more an exploration of the atlas, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. And then sustainable fishing, Catherine, would you like to summarize?
Yeah, we were maybe more like the second group and not really doing our homework either, even though you guys, I think, did even better. I think we, basically Daria and myself, used Nathalie to get a private tutorial, and we just poked around in the layers, but we were interested under fishing in the vessel density, in the number of vessels by port, and overlaying that maybe with the tonnage by ports, because we thought it'd be interesting to see, because the number alone doesn't say anything. It could be big or small. So Daria was saying in Croatia, there's lots of small vessels. We wanted to see if in the big ports in Europe or something, there's maybe the same number, but way more tonnage being shifted. So, and then we had a bit of trouble loading the second layer, and then we got distracted by individual ports and just poked into them to see what, in what context we should investigate that layer in terms of timelines. And we found out that the information was available from 1989 all the way to 2013, which was quite good, because you could see this different, got a different overview. Yeah, I think that was it. Is there anything I've forgotten?
Okay, thank you very much. So yes, indeed, this was a first look into the atlas, but we really do invite you to go back to the layers that you found interesting, and to have a deeper look at those map layers and others, and to just play around with the layers to test some kind of questions that you may have. A point that we also briefly discussed during the working group was on possibility for giving feedback. So if you have data that you think is interesting, and that you are wondering if it's possible to include that data in the European Atlas of the Sea, or if you're looking for something that you cannot find and you need help for that, then you can always contact us by clicking on the give feedback icon with the face here. And you have that here also on the left side of the screen. And then you have a form that opens, and you can post your questions or your comment or your feedback. And we will be very happy to discuss that with you. The more feedback we have, of course, the more interesting and the better we can also develop the atlas. So we are always very happy to see feedback. How can you stay informed about the European Atlas of the Sea? We have a Twitter account, and you have here the handle, so @EuropeAtlasSeas. And there we publish daily information about map layers or information that is available in the European Atlas of the Seas. So that allows you maybe to discover some map layers or some information or some feature or some tool that you had not seen. So if you follow us on Twitter, then you have everyday new advice or new highlights about the atlas. And on the Twitter account, we also publish tweets about the map of the week. Every week, we publish one map that we have selected, usually in connection with what is happening at the European level, whether it is a new communication from the European Commission or a conference or a specific event. And then we will select that map and we will give more information about that map. So that is very interesting for you also to get more details about the maps. We also have a campaign that is linked directly with the European Atlas of the Seas, and the fact that since September, it is now available in the 24 languages. So we have one ambassador per language, and we have already had several ambassadors who explain why they are interested in the ocean, why the ocean is important to them. So we've had, for example, the European Commissioner for Environment, Ocean and Sea. We have had the director from Flanders Marine Institute, or we have a surfer and marine social scientist, Dr. Isacker Britton. And as you follow us on Twitter, then you will discover the other ambassadors and why they think that the ocean is important. We also wanted to briefly mention the EU for Ocean Coalition, which you may have heard about, because the three topics that we've been discussing in the working groups, climate change, marine litter, and sustainable fisheries, are the subject of working groups in this EU for Ocean Coalition initiative. So if you're interested, you can have a look at the website, which is www.euoceanliteracy.eu. You can also follow them on Twitter with the hashtag EU4Ocean. And the reason that I mention it is because we have a map on the members of the European ocean platforms in the European Atlas of the Sea. So there are three communities in this coalition. There is the European Ocean Platform, which brings together research institutes, NGOs, industry associations, media. There is the Youth for Ocean Forum, which brings young people from 16 to 30 who have innovative ideas on what can be done on ocean literacy. And there's the European Network of Blue Schools that is aimed at teachers and educators with the objective of bringing the ocean into the classroom. The European EU for Ocean platform includes more than 100 members, and you can see who they are in the European Atlas of the Sea map that you can see here. So every time you click on a piece of a puzzle, then you can learn about a member. And so we invite you to dive back into the Atlas to have a look at this map. And if you're interested in joining them and in becoming a member of the platform, then you can join the platform by applying online, by going to the website that I mentioned. And we are updating this map every 2 weeks. So maybe you will be the next piece of puzzle on this map. And these are the main things that we wanted to share with you today. So we have a little bit of time left for any questions, but you can also contact us. You have Andree-Anne, Marsan's and my email address. And so we'll be happy to answer any questions also by email. So I'll open the floor if anyone has any question. I know that in our workshop, there was one question, so maybe you can ask it now, because I think it's more a question for Tim.
Yeah, I was just more interested in how do you manage the metadata? Are you using something like a GeoNetwork or another type of catalog to deal with the metadata behind the atlas? Because I saw front end is Esri, what you're using.
So in the atlas, we have we are not really using the metadata from the data provider directly, because with the Atlas, we more target a broader audience, and the data providers metadata is often much too technical for our audience. So what we do is we have our own backend system that kind of uses that kind of, and together with the data providers, we write an abstract that's more approachable. So basically our team writes it and then we have them review it for scientific correctness. And then this is how we get metadata like the title, the description into the Atlas, but we are not really using like a geo network to distribute that metadata. As for each of those data sets, there's an actual scientific metadata document, which is available from the data provider.
Okay, so as a user, if I'm interested in a specific data layer, I would go to the provider and they would have the metadata. Yes. Okay.
They, especially for EMUTnet, of course, I cannot speak for all our data providers, but most of them, they do document all the metadata together with the data. So
yeah, I was just thinking that in a standardized format, it would be easier to discover things. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, anyone? Nothing else? So
I might have another question, but if nobody else wants to talk, I would be also interested in terms of, I know you had the feedback function, and obviously this is also a way to interact with potential end users of the Atlas. Do you do specific groups of end users? Because you do have fisheries data in there. So there's, I could imagine there's a certain group of people interested in that data to look at what their requirements are, or how they need the data to come to them, or how they would like to look at it, or at what level even. Sorry, that's a lot of questions, but in a way, do you do segmented, like specific workshops with people?
Maybe I can just point one thing and then maybe give the word to Tim. One specific target group that we are doing a workshop with are teachers. So I did not mention it, but there's a teachers corner in the European Atlas of the Seas, where teachers can find exercises that they can do with their students. And so we have specific workshops with teachers to look at different exercises and how they can use the Atlas in the classrooms.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I was thinking about all the different topics and they're all different pieces. So somebody like teachers is, is looking for something different, a different way of interacting with the platform. So yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, Tim, is there anything that you want to add?
So yes, indeed, we are, with the Atlas, we really try to display the information, but of course, our data providers who actually, because in the Atlas, we don't really aim to disseminate the data other than through visualization of a map. But of course, the data providers themselves, which are, for example, in the more fisheries sector, or in the more scientific sector, I'm sure that they do interact with their specific user groups. So with the Atlas, we just try to bring actually the information from these different data providers, different sectors together, so that it's an easy way to first have a look of what kind of data is there. And then if you want to dig deeper and get more information on a specific topic, the goal to forward us to go through our data providers through, and then really, if you want the data and dive deeper into it, you can always access it with them. But the Atlas is a very easy kind of first view of what's available.
It's like a shop window in a sense.
Yes,
so in a sense, the data providers are also your user groups. because
Yes,
that's
yes.
how they get the data to the people.
It's a two-way interaction, yes.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Well, if not, we should finish because we have next lesson is in 15 minutes. So congratulations for this workshop. I think it's really been really interesting. So for sure you will get some feedback from us.
Thank
And,
you for having us.
and thank you.
And thank you for your attention.
Thank you for everyone's contribution. And as we said, we're available by email or through the feedback form. So please do not hesitate to contact us, and we'll be happy to continue this discussion online.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, see you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.